Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about 9 books I recommend to get out of a reading slump. We've all been there where we're kind of just like, yikes, I'm in a reading slump, I don't know what to read, or maybe you're part of the way through a book or something and you just have no motivation to keep reading it or start anything new. So these are 9 books that I guarantee are going to help you get out of a reading slump. They are either suspenseful, they're great murder mysteries, everything in the kind of the mystery and suspense genre. So let's go ahead and hop into our first book. So our first book is one of my all-time favorite books ever. I have read it multiple times, and this is the amazing suspense novel, romantic gothic novel by no other than Daphne DuMaurier. This is fantastic. If you've not read it, it's kind of a, as it says here, classic tale of romantic suspense. It's not really a romance novel, it's more of like a gothic, psychological, like kind of thriller, suspenseful book. If you haven't read her writing style, it's beautifully atmospheric. It sucks you in right away with the plot. Like, the plot's fascinating, the environment is amazing and beautiful, and you can see everything so clearly and easily. A quick synopsis summary to kind of get you an idea of what the book is about is basically this woman has recently she's gotten married, and she has married someone who was previously married, and his wife died, and his wife's name is Rebecca, his previous wife's name is Rebecca, and basically she's moving back to like his big estate, Manderley, and she's constantly under scrutiny, especially from some of the staff who really loved the previous wife, and she's being compared constantly, and there's like a lot of psychological elements where she's just constantly being compared to this ex-wife, almost like being kind of haunted by this person who is no longer there, but it's almost like her ghost is following her around, and she continues to learn more about Rebecca and what happened and all these different things, and it's just absolutely fascinating. If you have not read this, it's really great. Just because it's a classic, don't let it intimidate you. It's a pretty easy to read classic. It's nothing too scary or like out there in terms of the reading style or like the verbiage used. So I highly recommend this. It's a great suspense novel, and if you do end up liking it, the Alfred Hitchcock movie version of this I found to be quite good as well. So anyways, so let's go ahead and pop into book number 2. So this one is fairly new to me. I read it late 2021. It's called Kneaded to Death, a Breadshop mystery series, and this is by Winnie Archer, and our main character is a 36-year-old named Ivy, and she has returned to her hometown to do a lot of soul searching after the loss of her mother, who just recently died. And so she's, kind of staying, I think, with her father and her brother, and she works as a freelance photographer, but she decides to take this bread making class because she keeps visiting this bakery and just feels like very at home, very cozy, and really bonds with the owner and her sisters who run this like amazing Mexican bake shop with lots of different baked goods. You will get very hungry reading this, I promise you. So she takes this class, and essentially one of the students ends up dead, and that's kind of where the mystery ensues, and Ivy starts to work with one of her neighbors to figure out what happened and kind of uncovers all these clues, even some things regarding her own mother's passing in the process. And yeah, it's a really amazing cozy mystery, because sometimes the first book can be a little tricky with these because they can be kind of stereotypical, where the person moves back and bumps into people they knew and all that, but this one feels very natural. It feels like she's making new friends and connections that she never had at the bread shop. I love her relationship with the bread shop owner and her sisters. It's just so heartwarming and beautiful. She develops a new relationship with one of her elderly neighbors who's super spunky and fiery and awesome, and I want to be like her when I'm older. And yeah, it's so heartwarming, and I really like how she also uses her photography skills to kind of help with her sleuthing. So if you like a really good cozy mystery, this is a fantastic one. I would highly recommend it. Sucked me in right away. So this next book is a little bit outside of my normal reading range. It is still a murder mystery, however it is like a more fantasy world, kind of with a little bit of sci-fi, I would say, and it's called 4 Dead Queens, and it's by Astrid Schlote. Yeah, Astrid Schlote, I believe is how you say it. And this is actually her debut novel. It came out in 2019, and it is phenomenal. It is so phenomenal. You'll just never see all the twists that are coming. essentially the book starts off and you know that the 4 queens of the like country that they live in are dead or will be murdered somehow throughout the course of the book. And so our main character, I want to say her name is Reilly. She is 17 and she's actually an assassin. So she's, you know, kind of on the wrong side of the law here, and she ends up entangled with this and ends up kind of working with someone who's very honest and straightforward and not a criminal, as she escapes from like someone who's from her past, like a criminal past, and they work together to try to prevent these murders of the queens, because they kind of get this intelligence that something could be happening to these queens. However, you know, things continue to go on and you get to see, you know, did the queens end up murdered, what happened, who did it. Like, it's so good, and the world building in this is absolutely captivating. So if you like fantasy at all and you like murder mysteries, I would highly recommend this. I could not put this book down. It's something that's not typically in my reading, you know, realm, but I adored it. So I would absolutely recommend it. It's so good. Can't recommend it enough. So our next one is called A Spell for Trouble, an Enchanted Bay Mystery by Esme Addison. And this is actually a supernatural cozy mystery, which I don't read a lot of. It's not my favorite type of cozy mystery, but this is actually one that I really, really enjoyed. So I wanted to share it because I feel like the world building in it really sucked you in, and it was interesting to learn about the magic. So our main character's name is Alexandra, and her mother has died somewhat recently, and her father has always excluded her and prevented her from seeing her estranged relatives, including her aunt, who I believe is her mother's sister, and like cousins and whatnot. But she decides on a whim to visit them anyways in Bellamy Bay, North Carolina, and she discovers that her mother, along with like her aunt and cousins, like the females in that side of the family, actually have magical abilities. And her aunt runs like an apothecary there, and so she starts helping out at the apothecary, and she starts hearing these rumors about like how her family's descended from mermaids and they have healing abilities, and she completely brushes it off thinking it's nonsense. But of course that turns out to have some truth to it. Later on though, her aunt has been kind of at the center of some gossip, and her aunt is actually convicted and like kind of put, you know, on watch for a murder that happens, and she knows her aunt is innocent. So she begins exploring, and she also discovers other magical families within the community as well. And so it's just really interesting to see the family dynamics and her discovering her powers much later on than like other characters who've been endelved, like, you know, entrenched in this family magic for the long time, but you know, her father was keeping her from it. So it's a really interesting book, lots of cool family dynamics, a fun supernatural twist to it. However, I don't feel like the supernatural twist, one of my pet peeves with supernatural mysteries is when like the magic solves the mystery. I feel like this was still solved by her like her wit and her like know-how ability and her deductive skills, not just the fact that she has magic, which I personally really liked. But I was so sucked in and enamored by the like just the general plot line and the family and the characters and just the locale of this. So I think this would be a really enjoyable book for you if you do enjoy a supernatural mystery. Our next book is actually the cozy mystery that got me into cozy mysteries really, and that is A Slice of Murder, a Pizza Lover's Mystery by Cavender. This is the perfect culinary mystery. I've talked about this a bit, so I will be brief with this. You can check out my video on my top 5 cozy mysteries for beginners up here if you want to hear more about this series. But this is incredible. It features Eleanor Swift, and she's in this small sleepy town in North Carolina called Timber Ridge, and she is a pizza place owner of a place called A Slice of Delight. She's lived there for a long time. She's been grieving her husband Joe for a long time as well, so she's rather closed off emotionally because of that. However, one night she ends up doing a late night pizza delivery, and she ends up finding the customer dead in their home. So this sets her on a quest to figure out what happened to this customer, because they were a regular, they were someone she liked, and there's just a host of really delightful characters in this. Her sister Maddie is an absolute like crack up. I love her sister Maddie. I think I'm more like Eleanor, but her sister Maddie is just hilarious and fun to read about. And again, this will definitely make you very hungry, but it's just a very easy read. It's really a good one to get sucked into and kind of just forget everything going on around you. If you're looking for like a nice escape from, you know, stress for a while, I would recommend this. I have read like everyone in the series. I love this one. So yeah, definitely recommend these. Check them out. Alright, so our next one is a newer read of mine as well. I believe I read this last December, and this is called Meet Your Baker, a bake shop mystery by Ellie Alexander, and it features our main protagonist, Juliet, or Jules as she goes by, and she is recently returned from a job working on a cruise ship as like a chef, and she's returned to her hometown of Ashland, Oregon, where her mother is continuing to run the family business, a bake shop named Tort, and so she's helping out her mother there. She recently had a lot of marital issues. She got married to someone on the cruise ship, and there was just secrets and things that came out, and she's kind of like trying to decide what to do. So she comes back home and she ends up helping her mom out, and she finds, unfortunately, after her dad had passed away, that things in the shop have kind of gone awry, like financially there's some issues and struggles there, so she's kind of concerned about her mother and trying to figure out what happened there. And one of the cool things about the Ashland, Oregon town is that there's all these Shakespeare themed festivals in the area, like they're really known for that kind of Shakespeare just events in general, and they're putting on a festival at the time, and one of the board members actually ends up dead inside the bake shop, inside Tort, and nobody knows why. So Jules goes on the case because she doesn't want Tort's reputation to be ruined, or any of her mother or like her mother's employees to be like pulled into the investigation and blamed for anything. So this is just a really delightful read. I did enjoy this. I gave it 4 to 5 stars. It was a really good one that was fast-paced, sucked me in really well. I loved the ending, but the second book, I have to say, I already gave that one, I gave 5 out of 5 stars. It was just excellent, and I have the third one on hold right now at the library, which I'm very impatiently waiting for. So this is a really great one. Again, if you love a culinary cozy mystery, I think you'll love this. Alright, so this next one, if you've been listening to some of my new, cozy mysteries in January video, I'll link it above if you want to check it out. You'll know I was very excited to read this, as well as my 2022 anticipated reads, and I actually was fortunate enough, I signed up to NetGalley, which I'll leave a link to in the description. Anyone can sign up, and you can request ebooks of books that haven't come out yet, like advanced reader copies, or ARCs as a lot of people call them, and I got an ARC for this, so I have been reading the ebook of it, and I love it. It's like just sucked me in so quickly, so I had to include it on this list. And that is the book Up to No Gouda, a grilled cheese mystery, and this is by Linda Reilly, and it features our main character Carly, who has recently lost her husband, and with the money from like their life insurance policy, or like from the home sale, I can't quite remember, she decides to open up a grilled cheese eatery because this has been her dream for a long time. So she returns to her hometown, finds a great location for it, and the grilled cheese eatery is going amazing. She's got some great employees. However, her landlord begins harassing her and isn't letting her renew her lease. Well, she finds out her landlord is actually Lyle, her ex high school sweetheart, who I don't think things ended too well with them, and he's apparently kind of turned a bit for the worse, kind of a nasty guy, and he ends up dead kind of near her shop. So there's just, she's being interviewed, and one of her employees actually has some beef with him and is suspected of the crime. So she has to act quickly, figure out where she's going to move her grilled cheese eatery, get her employee cleared of any suspicion, and find out who actually did it, because even though she thinks Lyle's a piece of work now, she wants to, still avenge him. She did love him at one point. And I really love this. The relationships in this feel so authentic and just really real. It doesn't feel cheesy, corny. The dialogue is very good. I really enjoyed some of the scenes so far where Jules is kind of reconnecting or bumping into people from her past. I think it's handled really well, and it's just really interesting to see some of the relationships that either don't get rebuilt or are being rebuilt as she encounters these people. It's super good. I really enjoyed this. A second book for this series. This is the first in the series. A second one for the series will be coming out, I think, this summer. So yeah, I'll have everything linked down below if you want to check it out. But I really, really have been enjoying this ebook, so definitely recommend it. Okay, this last book. It's so good. So this is more of a suspense book rather than a murder mystery, and this is also by Daphne DuMaurier. She's one of my favorite classic authors, and I just read it last weekend, and it's mind-blowing. My brain was blown. I ended up reading it in under 72 hours. I like to read multiple books at once, so I ignored all of my other books that I had started and was just reading this 400-page book, 72 hours or less. I spent hours on Saturday reading it, and because I had to know, like I had to get to the end. It was such a suspenseful, dramatic read. It's not like a classic murder mystery, but essentially the main plot of this is that you have the main character, I always forget his name. Okay, but we have our main character who's in his like mid-20s. He's about to turn 25 at the beginning of the book, and his like mentor slash cousin Ambrose goes off to Italy for a while. They're located in England. And he goes off to Italy for his health because he has like different health issues, and his doctor recommends him to take like winters off to go down there for the summer and stuff. It's supposed to be easier on the lungs and stuff. And he ends up running into a cousin, my cousin Rachel, and he ends up falling in love with her and getting married to her. And our main character is very upset about this. He's never had to share his cousin. This is kind of like his surrogate father, and they're both like perpetual bachelors. Like Ambrose is like, I don't know, I got the feeling he was like in his 60s, like, you know, he's never married, like he's never had any interest, there's never been any women in their home, nothing. And the main character is also the heir to Ambrose's like estate and everything. So Ambrose actually ends up staying there through like the winter and just like living down there for like a year or two or so. And essentially what happens is that he ends up dying down there in Italy, and the cousin Rachel ends up eventually coming back to England to visit the estate and also give our main character some of Ambrose's things and whatnot. And there is constant questioning throughout the entire book as to, did she possibly do something to murder Ambrose? Did she cut him off intentionally? Did she marry him for the money? Like there's just all these ethical questions and like nuances about, is she, because her previous husband had also died kind of under strange circumstances, so now she's kind of under suspicion. Like, is she kind of like, what do they call, like a black widow, I think, who poisons like unsuspecting men and like marries them for their wealth and poisons them? Did that happen? And she just really plays like, or seems to play at least, like mind games with the main character, and you just, every time you think you figured out, oh yes, she is like a bad person, or oh yes, she's just, you know, a victim of circumstances or something, you are completely flipped on your back. Like Daphne DuMaurier is so good at that. Like the minute you think, oh, I figured this out, like she is a bad person or a good person, or, you know, she's just a victim of circumstance, whatever it is, she completely just like turns it on you in like a second. And it's so suspenseful, and I just sat there glued to it. Like I read 200 pages in one sitting because I could not put the book down. It's so atmospheric. If you like Rebecca and you if you have seen Rebecca or read Rebecca and you liked it, you would definitely love this book. I cannot recommend it enough. This might be, it's tied with Rebecca for me. I love it that much. So it's so good. I actually just checked out the movie from the library. I'm kind of curious to see how they did with the movie, but it's so interesting. There's so much nuance, and I just could not put it down because I needed to know, like, did she do it? Did she not do it? What is going on here? Like, are there mind games being played? And you also get the sense at certain points that the narrator might be unreliable, so you're kind of like, I have no, like, it's so psychological, like it gets in your mind. Like I could not stop. Like I finished the book and I thought about the ending for like 2 hours afterwards. Like I was so deeply rooted and invested in this book. So I definitely recommend, if you like a suspenseful read that's very much kind of maybe unreliable, like twists and turns, and you just aren't sure, like, you might like this. I really would recommend it. So those are my 9 books. I hope you will leave me a comment down below. What books have gotten you out of reading slumps before? What would you recommend to me or other people in the comments? And don't forget to like and subscribe. And I don't think I mentioned it, my name is Amy Marie. I upload mystery content every single week, so definitely hit subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!